Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are going to wrap up this testimony involving Ariel Clary, and it will be followed by testimony from her friend Malak. And if you guys haven't checked them out already, I did do there's two other videos out there that I did. That one is the cross-examination, in which we're going to continue the cross in this video. And then there's a video from her first day on the witness stand. And so she was on the stand for 2.5 days, and then the best friend followed her on that third day. And so this is going to be the conclusion of all testimony involving Ariel Clary. And then one thing I wanted to point out, as some of you may know if you saw my video, where the preacher, well, he wasn't a preacher, I think he called himself an elder at the time, who performed the wedding ceremony between R. Kelly and Aaliyah. Remember, we kept saying, well, where is the pastor? Where is the people from the clerk's office? So they did produce the pastor yesterday. And so the one thing I wanted to point out, I noticed that a lot of people are saying that the marriage license or the marriage certificate was never returned. And so if you listen, go back to the video that I did of the reading of the transcripts with Demetrius Smith. So the first day that Demetrius Smith was on the stand, which was Friday, the 20th, August 20th, prior to Demetrius coming on the stand, there was a lady who testified, and her name was Catherine Harris. And Catherine Harris has worked for the Cook County Clerk's Office for like 21 years. And so the prosecutor was questioning her about the process in order to get married. And she stated that when a couple comes in, they get the marriage application, they have to show their ID, whatever. And then at the same time that they do the application, there is a marriage license that's produced. They give the marriage license to the officiant, which could be the pastor, a minister, or an elder of the church. Not sure about Chicago, but I know here you can get married by a notary. Actually, the clerk in the clerk's office can marry people. So at that time, they paid for the application, and they received with the application the marriage license. So when you go to get married, you give the marriage license to the officiant. After the ceremony, that person completes the designated fields on the license, which is their signature, the date, and they're verifying, certifying that they, exchange these vows with you. They're certifying that you are now husband and wife. And then that person mails the license back to the court or to the clerk's office. And then once that is done, then a marriage certificate becomes available. And then you can go down and pick up your marriage certificate or whatever, however that process works. So people are saying that the certificate was never returned. So the certificate is the final step in the marriage process. And when she testified that, and I believe she made a mistake when she testified, because there was a code on the marriage license. So basically the marriage license is the day that I guess the license is returned to them. It should be the day of the marriage. But anyway, on the marriage license, it said 1994, which is the year. And then it said 94, which should have been the month and the day. And then it had like maybe four other numbers, like 2885 or something like that following it. So in her testimony, she said that the marriage license was returned and that it was postmarked on September 6th. But I'm not sure how it could have been postmarked on the 6th if, according to your code and how this coding creates the marriage license number, it sounds to me like the license was returned on September 4th. They got it in the mail on September 4th. And then it was September 6th that they actually processed it into the computer and made the certification, the marriage certificate, available, and that anybody could come in and pick up a marriage certificate. You can't pick up a copy of the license. You can't pick up a copy of the application. I think she said, I know she said the application, but anybody from the public can come and get a copy of the marriage certificate. And so she didn't go into whether or not anyone ever picked up the certificate, only that the license was returned by the person who had their name listed. It came in the mail, so she didn't know who actually sent it back. But it was signed by the Nathan Edmonds guy, and with the date of the ceremony and all of that good stuff, and it was mailed back. So I'm not sure where the confusion is coming in, where everybody is saying that it was never sent back in, so the marriage isn't valid. According to the Catherine Harris lady who testified, it was sent back. So there's been an application, there is a marriage license, and there is the certification, and it's the certification that makes the marriage valid. It means that all the processes have, they've gone through all the process. It's a 3-step process. So I just wanted to clear that up because there was a lot of confusion about that. And so we're going to go ahead and get into this reading. And so they are returning back from, I believe it was lunch that they went on when I ended the last video. And so it starts out with Ariel, and it says, well, no, it starts out with Cannick, and he's resuming to questioning Ariel. And it says, hold on a second there. Okay. And it says, you testified and told us earlier that there were some of the live-in girlfriends of Mr. Kelly that left the relationship. Do you remember telling us about that? Yeah. Hold on a second. Okay. Yes. Was someone by the name of Summer one of the, and then the clerk says the jurors can't hear you. And then Cannick says, was someone by the name of Summer one of the individuals? I don't know her. Do you know someone by the name of Sarah? Who? Sarah. Sarah? Yes. No. Do you know someone by the name of, I want to call names. You mentioned someone by the name of Neek. Yes. You left the relationship at some point. Yes. Didn't she come and go? No. And then let me stop there for those who are new to the channel or new to the readings. If there's a question being asked, and so right now, Ariel Clary, who is going by the name of Jane, is under cross-examination, and R. Kelly's attorney, Deveraux Cannick, is doing the cross-examination, and so he is the one that's asking the questions. Ariel is responding with a statement, and then if there comes a time when Ariel responds to his question with the question, I'll let you know Ariel is asking a question. And then if you ever hear me say the court, that is Judge Donnelly that's speaking. And then the objections are probably coming from Elizabeth Geddes, who is the head prosecutor for the government. So let's go ahead and pick up with Cannick asking a question. And he says, you left the relationship a couple of times as well. Am I correct? Yes. And when you left the relationship, you went down to Florida, am I correct? Once. And you were with your family, am I correct? Yes. Do you remember when that was? I don't. And in the relationship, you had provided by Mr. Kelly shopping sprees? Yes. Visits to the spas? Yes. Nail salons? Yes. Uber account? Yes. Lyft account? Yes. Telephone? Yes. iPad? Yes. And then, of course, you had the services of assistants who Mr. Kelly engaged to provide services to you and the other guests, his girlfriends. Yes. And those people, their responsibility was to make sure that you were serviced in terms of getting the things that you requested of them. Am I correct? Yes. And sometimes that would include providing transportation services as well. Am I correct? Yes. Now, I asked you earlier this morning that during your interview with the government, whether or not you told the government that your mother told you to take as many pictures as you possibly could of you and Mr. Kelly together, and to include the crazy face ones kissing because she felt you felt that your mother wanted to exploit Mr. Kelly to the media and take advantage of his finances. Geddes, objection as to form. Donnelly, yes, as to form. Why don't you break it down? Cannick, isn't it a fact that you told the government during one of your sessions with them that your mother told you to take as many pictures of you and Mr. Kelly together? Yes. And isn't it also a fact that you told the government that she said to you, requested of you to include the crazy face ones kissing? Isn't that a fact? I don't recall that, no. Well, I'm going to show you this document and see if it refreshes your recollection. Geddes, what number? Cannick, 4, page 6. Directing your attention to the highlighted portion at the bottom, there's a pause. Ariel says, okay. And then Cannick continues, have you reviewed it? Yes. Did it refresh your recollection? It does. That your mother wanted you to take these pictures, as many of them as possible, including the ones that you were kissing. Yes, I still don't. I didn't ask you what you think. I asked you, does it? I still don't recall it. You don't recall it? Yeah, no. But you were at the meeting with the government, correct? I was, yes. And you testified earlier they took notes. Am I correct? Yes. You saw them writing, am I correct? Yes, I did. And now, I asked you earlier whether you met with the government in preparation of giving testimony to the jury. Do you remember me asking you that? Yes. And you told me that you did a number of times, am I correct? Yes, sir. During that prep session, did the government and you go over questions that you were likely to be asked on cross-examination? We did, yes. You did? So the government prepped you for questions that they thought you were going to be asked in cross-examination? Am I correct? Yes. And this was one of the questions, am I correct? Yes. And the government showed you this document, am I correct? No, I never saw any documents, but this is one of the questions. Yes. Now, at that meeting, didn't you tell the government that you felt that your mother wanted this to be done so that she could exploit Mr. Kelly to the media? I don't recall that. That's in the document you just read. Am I correct? It is, yes. And she wanted to exploit him because, according to you, because you were only 17. That's what's said in the document, yes. And basically, you were the only person in that room giving information to the government, correct? Geddes, objection. Donnelly, sustain. Cannick, on the date that you were there being briefed by the government, the dates, you were the only person giving the government information about this incident. Am I correct? Objection. Overruled. There was no other witness in there with you, was there? Ariel, no. Cannick, so they were getting the information from you. Correct. And now you testified earlier this morning and you told us that when you were at those meetings, you saw documents. Am I correct? Yes. And you're telling us now that this is not one of the documents you saw? I never saw any notes that were taken. No, not notes. I've never seen any documents like that before. Now, I want to go back. I asked you earlier this morning about your dress when you went to the Dolphin to the audition by Mr. Kelly, and you told us that you wore skinny jeans and the mesh blouse or crop top. Yes, and I asked you, isn't it a fact that you were just going there from your weightlifting class and you were sweaty? That's not true. Okay, now again, you were debriefed by the government. Am I correct? I was, yes. And you were the only person given the government information at the time you were in the room about your visiting with Mr. Kelly to audition at the Dolphin. Am I correct? Correct. Isn't it a fact that you told Mr. Kelly that you told the government, that the date you first met with Mr. Kelly at the Dolphin, it was after school? That's what you told them, right? It was, yes. And you went on to tell them that you had been weightlifting and was sweaty. That was not accurate. You didn't tell them that? What are you asking me? Can you rephrase it? Didn't you tell the government that on the date that you went to visit Mr. Kelly at the Dolphin Hotel, you had been weightlifting at school and you were sweaty? I don't recall. Directing your attention to the bottom portion, the highlighted portion. See if that refreshes your recollection. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't recall. So let me ask you, when you were there and being debriefed, was anyone at the table taking notes from you, taking the notes? I don't remember, but they were all in the room, right? Yes. Okay. Now, you testified before the grand jury in this case. Am I correct? Pardon? You testified before the grand jury in connection with this case. Am I correct? Correct. And you were sworn then. Am I correct? I was, yes. You were sworn to tell the truth, just like you were sworn here. You were sworn when you came here. Am I correct? Correct, yes. Do you remember telling the grand jury, he continuously asked me over and over again to be intimate with him. I told him that I just left school and I had gotten out of weightlifting practice. I do recall saying that, yes. So, in the grand jury, you swore that you had just gotten out of weightlifting class. Am I correct? Yes or no, am I correct? Objection. Donnelly, the objection is sustained. Go ahead, but that objection is sustained. Do you want to talk at sidebar? Cannick, yes, yes. So the following occurred at sidebar. Donnelly, I don't think there's an inconsistency. I think the testimony on direct that's what she told the defendant. I don't think she said that that's what actually happened. That's my recollection. Cannick, you're probably right, Your Honor. Donnelly, well, it's a rare occasion, so I don't think that's the confusion and why the witness might be, but then Cannick cuts her off. Okay, Geddes. That's my recollection. Donnelly, is that correct? Geddes, yes, Your Honor. Cannick, I stand corrected. Donnelly, well, I was explaining why I was sustaining the objection. Cannick, sure, and I appreciate it. Donnelly, I'm sure you do. End of sidebar. Continue. So, Cannick, now, you testified yesterday and told the jury that although you had sexual encounters with Mr. Kelly, the first time there was actual intercourse was at a trip in Stockton. Yes. Now, when you met the government to discuss this case, that was back in 2019, am I correct? Yes. And that was closer in time to and then Ariel cuts him off and says, sorry, what year did you say? 2019, when you first met the government. No, I believe no. I don't think. Was it in January of 2020? Yes. So that was closer in time to the allegation than today. Am I correct? Can you rephrase that? When you first spoke with the government about this supposed intercourse, that was in 2020. Yes. And the incident, according to you, occurred in 2015. Correct. Okay. And today, we're in actually 2021, right? Correct. Now, when you spoke with the government, didn't you tell them that the first time you had intercourse or penetration, it was in Los Angeles? I don't recall. Well, let's refresh your recollection. And then he approaches the witness. You've reviewed it? Yes, I did. Isn't it a fact that the first time you had, according to you, from what you told the government, that you told the government the first time you had actual intercourse with Mr. Kelly, it was Los Angeles? The location is not accurate. My question to you, ma'am, isn't it a fact that you told the government that the first time that you had sexual intercourse with Mr. Kelly was in Las Vegas? No, I did not say Las Vegas. Okay, and again, if the government, they were these same people in the room, am I correct? Correct. And they were taking notes, am I correct? Yes, sir. What's what in the document? Am I correct? Yes, sir. Donnelly, I'm sorry. Is it Las Vegas or Los Angeles? Oh, child, Donnelly, I'm glad you asked, because I didn't want to scroll back up, because I was saying, okay, is he trying to trip her up? Because first he said Los Angeles, then he said Las Vegas, but I didn't feel like scrolling back up, y'all. So Donnelly called it. She said, I'm sorry. Is it Las Vegas or Los Angeles? So then Cannick said it was Los Angeles, and then Donnelly said, okay. Now, before coming in here and giving testimony to this jury, and then wait, I don't even think Cannick realized that Donnelly was correcting him, that he had said two different dates when he was, two different locations when he was asking the questions. He just moved on as if Donnelly was confused. But no, Mr. Cannick, you were the one making the error, but we're going to move on here. Okay, so now, before coming in here and giving testimony to this jury, you and the government went over where this first time occasion of having intercourse with Mr. Kelly occurred. Am I correct? Correct. You discussed that and went over Stockton versus Los Angeles. Am I correct? That is correct. Because somewhere someone realized that it didn't add up. Am I correct? No. Getty's objection. Donnelly, I'm just going is to sustain the objection to the last thing. Last about adding up. Lord have mercy. Cannick, okay. Isn't it a fact that Mr. Kelly was not in Los Angeles until October of 2015? Okay, I got excited there. Because remember what I told y'all, that these dates that she was given, that he was supposed to have been having a concert. He was at a music festival in San Jose. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm confused and got the dates and the concerts mixed up. But evidently, Ariel was telling lies on the witness stand. Okay, so then she says, I don't recall. Let's see if this refreshes you. Counsel approaches the witness. I'm going to ask you to direct your attention to these 3 pages that I'm handing to you and see if that refreshes, I think he meant if that refreshes your recollection. Geddes, what are you showing her? Cannick, his concert calendar. Geddes, may I see it? Cannick, I gave it to you. I don't have it. Pause in proceedings. Your Honor, may we have a brief sidebar? Donnelly, hell no. No, she said no, y'all. Is it true that you can use anything to refresh recollection, but just show the government what you're, and then Cannick cut her off and said, I did. And then Donnelly said, okay. And then counsel approaches the witness. And then he says, again, looking at these 3 pages, See if it refreshes your recollection as to when Mr. Kelly first appeared in Los Angeles in 2015. Okay, you've read it. Yes. Does it refresh your recollection as to when that withdrawn? Does it refresh your recollection that the first time Mr. Kelly appeared in Los Angeles in 2015 was in the month of October? Yes, that is true. Now, yesterday and today you told us about the police coming to the door when you and Mr. Kelly were in the Dolphin Hotel, and you told us about the fact that you were on top of him, and according to you, he was licking your butt. Jesus. And do you recall telling the government in one of those sessions that when you met Mr. Kelly, when you met up with Mr. Kelly at the Dolphin Hotel in Florida in his room, he masturbated in front of you while you were singing? I don't recall that. See if this refreshes your recollection. Which part? Right there. And then he's pointing to that. Having read that, does that refresh your recollection that you told the government that Mr. Kelly masturbated while you were singing? It is not. It does not. But it's in the document. Am I correct? Correct. And you saw them taking notes. Am I correct? Correct. You were the only person telling them about this incident. Am I correct? Correct. Now, you testified and told the jury earlier that Mr. Kelly did absolutely zero to help you further your musical career. Do you remember telling us that? Correct. Now, when you met with the government, you told them that there was a time that Kelly would provide you 35 minutes to an hour of music-related interest. Do you remember telling them that? I did, yes. And then you went on to tell the government that practicing was hard for you. Practicing music was hard for you. I don't recall saying that. Counsel approaches the witness. You looked over it. Yes. Does it refresh your recollection that you told the government that practicing music was hard for you? No, I don't recall. Okay, but it's in the document. Am I correct? Correct. Objection. Overruled. Now, do you recall telling the government further that Kelly told you that you were not pulling your weight as far as your music career is concerned? I don't recall that. Counsel approaches the witness. Bottom portion, right there. You read it. Yes, sir. Does it refresh your recollection that you told the government that Kelly told you that you weren't pulling your weight as far as your music career was concerned? I don't recall that, but it's in the document, right? Yes, it is. Now, you testified and told us earlier before lunch that Kelly did not celebrate holidays. Do you remember telling us that? I said the holidays were celebrated delayed. Well, yesterday when you testified, you told us that he did not celebrate holidays. Do you remember telling us that? Objection. Overruled. Did you say that yesterday? I recall saying that they were delayed. Do you recall being asked this question and giving this answer? Page 935. Question. What, if anything, do you recall happening on December 28th of 2015? Answer. Me and the defendant had gotten into an argument. Question. And do you recall the nature of the argument? Answer. Yes, I do. Question. What was it about? Answer. He had expressed to me that he didn't celebrate holidays because he no longer had his family. Were you asked those questions and given that answer? Yes, correct. Okay, now, in that answer, you didn't say it was delayed. Am I correct? In that answer, I said he, and when you say he, you were talking about Mr. Kelly. Am I correct? Yes, and you told the jury that Mr. Kelly no longer celebrated holidays, correct? That's exactly what he told me. My question to you is that not what you told the jury. Can you rephrase it? Isn't it a fact that you told the jury yesterday that he expressed to me that he didn't celebrate holidays because he no longer had his family? That he expressed to me? Yes. And you told the jury this under oath yesterday, right? Yes. Now, Mr. Kelly celebrated family, celebrated Father's Day. Objection. Overruled. Yes. He celebrated Thanksgiving. Yes. 4th of July. I'm sorry. Let me back up. So after Donnelly said overruled, Ariel said yes. And then Cannick said he celebrated Thanksgiving. Yes. 4th of July. Yes. New Year's. Not that I can recall. Christmas. Yes. Christmas. Huge Christmas tree every year, right? Yes. Okay. In fact, 40 feet. Not every year. Not every year. You've seen it, right? Yes. And he gave out substantial gifts. Correct. And some of the girlfriends went home for Christmas. Am I correct? I never recall that. The picture that I showed you earlier today, didn't that person go home one Christmas? I don't recall that. Now, Mr. Kelly would videotape Christmas holidays and celebrations. Am I correct? Yes. In fact, he would videotape almost everything. Am I correct? He would, yes. Trips to the beach? Yes. Playing around the house? Yes. He would just use his iPad or camera to videotape most things. Am I correct? Can you rephrase that? He would use his camera or iPad to video on a daily basis non-sexual events. That is not true. At the times that you guys would hang out, he would videotape. Am I correct? Correct, yes. How often would you hang out? I would be with the defendant every day. No, my question, I said hang out. Are you going out or are you around the house? Around the house. And he would videotape you around the house. Am I correct? Correct. And he videotaped everyone around the house. Am I correct? Correct. Now, you testified and told us yesterday that when you go to the gym to watch Mr. Kelly play basketball, you could not watch any other man. Do you remember telling us that? Yes. How could you watch him without watching other men? I do not know, sir. But you said you did it, right? I did, yes. But you don't know how you did it? I actually stopped going to basketball. No, that's not my question. My question is, do you know how you did it? You said you did, and I'm just asking, how did you do it? I would usually look at his shoes, and then when I would find his shoes, I would look at him. What kind of shoes was he wearing? He would pack his basketball bags, so we would usually know. Beg your pardon? We would pack his basketball bags, so we would usually know what he was wearing. What kind of shoes was he wearing? Workout shoes. Nikes? Yeah. Air Force Ones? No. Not Air Force Ones? Okay. And his shoes were different from every other person on the court? Correct. What color was his shoes? What night are you referring to? Any night. I mean, his bags were packed every single day, so any night it could have been a different pair of shoes. He had over thousands. Okay, so the colors that he would generally wear would be white and black. Objection. I don't understand the relevance of it. They brought this up on direct yesterday, so I'm just trying to explore her ability to see the defendant, my client, without Donnelly looking at other people. Cannick, yes. And looking at other people. Donnelly, all right. Are we talking about just at basketball games? Cannick, that's what they asked. Donnelly, I'm just asking, sir. Cannick, yes, just at basketball games. Donnelly, did you look at other men at basketball games? Azriel. I did, yes. Cannick. Now, you testified earlier and told us that at this encounter at the Dolphin, Mr. Kelly recorded you. I never said that, no. You said he took out a camera. At the Dolphin Hotel? Yes. I said he took out an iPad. Did he record you? I said I never saw what he did with the iPad. So you don't know if he recorded you or not. I don't. When you spoke with the government one time, you told the government that he recorded you every time except at the Dolphin. Do you remember telling them that? I don't. Counsel approaches the witness, directing your attention to the bottom portion. Isn't it a fact that when you met with the government, you told the government that Mr. Kelly recorded you every time except at the Dolphin? I don't recall that, but it's in the document. Yes, it is. And in the grand jury, you told the grand jury that he recorded you every time you had sex with him. Do you remember telling the grand jury that? I don't recall. I'm sorry. Cannick. Page 26. Counsel approaches the witness. I'm going to withdraw that question. Donnelly. Okay. Cannick. Now, going back to the year Mr. Kelly told you he would help you with your music, isn't it a fact that when you were interviewed by the government regarding this issue, you told the government that Mr. Kelly told you that you were lazy and needed to concentrate on your music more? I don't recall that. Counsel approaches the witness. You read it. Yes, sir. Isn't it a fact that when you were debriefed by the government, you told them Mr. Kelly said you were lazy and you needed to concentrate on your music more? No, that's not accurate. But that's in the document, right? Yes, sir. And you were the person imparting the information to the government, correct? Yes, sir. Now the government asked you about calling Mr. Kelly Daddy. Do you remember telling them that? Yes, sir. Now, you said that Mr. Kelly asked you to call him Daddy the first time you met. Am I correct? I don't recall saying the first time we met. When was it that he first asked you to call him Daddy? I don't recall, but it was immediately. What's immediate is not the first time. No, not the first time. Second time? Yeah, I don't recall when, but I do know that it was immediate. I'm sorry. So you called him other names as well, am I correct? Not after, no. After he expressed that name, no. Well, I didn't. Well, didn't you call him Bear? Years later, yes. In fact, you would ride him up until 2019, calling him Bear. Am I correct? Now, I think ride was supposed to be right. I don't know what ride. In fact, you would ride him up until 2019, calling him Bear. Am I correct? I don't know what ride was supposed to be. But we're going to move on. That is not true. Didn't you also call him Papa Bear? Yes, I did. And you called him that up until 2019. Am I correct? Not from 2015, if that's what you're asking. No, what I'm asking you is what I just asked. Objection overruled. Y'all talk about Donnelly, but Donnelly is equally rude to everybody. She overruled Cannick when the government was questioning Azriel, and now she's overruling the government now that Cannick is questioning. So she seems to be an equal opportunity overruler, okay? So Cannick, didn't you call him Papa Bear up until 2019? I did, yes, and he called you Mama Bear. Am I correct? That is true. And he had nicknames for the other girlfriends as well. Am I correct? I never heard them. Well, isn't it a fact that you told the government that he would call the other girls Cookie? I never said that. Never said it? Never. Counsel approaches the witness. asking you to direct your attention to the last 3 lines. Isn't it a fact that when you met with the government, you told the government that Mr. Kelly would call the other girlfriend's Cookie? That is not accurate. It's in the document, right? Correct. And you're saying the government made all these errors? Am I correct? Objection. Overruled. I just said that is not correct, or it's not accurate. If you didn't say it and it's in the document, then the government must have made a mistake, correct? Correct. It's multiple mistakes as far as you're concerned, correct? Objection. Sustained. Now, you testified and told the jury that there came a point in time that you learned that you had herpes. Do you remember telling the government that? Correct. And you told the government that it was my client who gave you the herpes. Am I correct? That is correct. Okay. Now, during the course of time that you stayed, that you were with Mr. Kelly, family members came to visit you. Am I correct? That is correct. And how often would they come to visit you? Seldom. And they would have their cameras with them, their phones. Am I correct? Not that I can recall. Well, wasn't there a time that your sister was at the studio taking videos and pictures? Yes. And how long was she there? I believe she was in Chicago for less than 72 hours. Now, you testified yesterday and told us that there were some photographs that you took of my client or took them, taken by both of you or him, but these photographs were at a cover shoot, I think you had said. Correct, yes. And these are photographs basically of Mr. Kelly dressed in certain wardrobes preparing for a cover. Correct, yes. And you testified and told us that you sent those to your girlfriend just in case. Am I correct? Correct. Just in case of what? Just in case the defendant had broken my phone or anything. Now, the ones that you testified and told us earlier that you got a chastisement. And in that chastisement, you sustained a beating from my client. Am I correct? Well, which chastising are you referring to? There was one where you supposedly sustained broken skin. Do you remember telling us about that? Correct, yes. Okay. And you testified and told us about one where you were beaten with a closed hand. Those were not chastisings. I'm sorry, where you were beating with a closed hand. Those were not chastising. Those were not. Those were physical abuse. Physical abuse, all right. And that physical abuse, you sustained a beating. Am I correct? Correct. And you were beaten about the face. He would slap me in my face. You were beaten about the face. Yes. You were beaten about the body. Yes. You were beaten all over. Am I correct? Yes, sir. You had the camera. Am I correct? Not that I can recall. You had her camera on your phone. Yes, sir. Did you take any pictures of those and send them, of your beatings, of the injuries, and send them to any family member? I actually did take pictures of bruises, yes. My question to you is, did you take them and send them to a family member just in case? No, sir. Did you send them to this very same friend just in case? Not that I can recall. So the picture that you sent was a picture of Mr. Kelly narrowly attired for a cover sheet, and I think that should have been cover shoot, and you sent that to a friend just in case. Correct. Now, Mr. Kelly put you on a pedestal, did he not? No, he did not. Well, isn't it a fact that you told government during one of those interviews that Mr. Kelly put you on a pedestal? I do not recall. Counsel approaches the witness. Okay, at this point, Ariel should understand that this man ain't asking her a question that he ain't got the answer to. But she keep on talking about she don't recall. So, Counsel approaches the witness. Look at the highlighted portion of this and see if that refreshes your recollection. You've read it? I do. Does that refresh your recollection that you told the government that Mr. Kelly put you on a pedestal? It does. He put you on a pedestal. Am I correct? No, he did not. That's in the document. Am I correct? That is true, yes. That's what you told the government. Am I correct? That is what's in the document. But you were the only one conveying the information to the government. Am I correct? Correct. Now, you testified and told us earlier about a situation where you drove from a show in Key West, you said. Yes. Up to Daytona, up to Jacksonville? Yes. How long? How did you get there? By car. How long was the drive, would you say? I don't recall, but I do know it was a few hours. A few hours? Yeah, I would have been looking at her like, girl, first of all, it take about 7 damn hours to drive from Key West to Miami. Now, it might not be 7 hours, but child, that's a long bridge. Long highway that you got to go through to get to Key West. But anyway, and then to get from Miami to Jacksonville, you're probably talking about 4 hours. Depending on how, well, to get to Daytona Beach, you're probably talking about 3 to 4 hours. And then Daytona to Jacksonville, you might be talking about another 2 to 3 hours, I think. Depending, like if they went 95, that would have been faster. But anyway, I digress. She lying. That's the point I'm trying to make. So then she says, I don't recall, but I do know it was a few hours. A few hours? Yes. Now, what was the name of the venue that he performed? It was an outside event, and it was for a breast cancer awareness event, but it wasn't in the street. It had a name. I don't recall the name of the show. And who else was on the show? I believe there were other people that had different times. And what was your time? I believe my time was around 8:30. 8:30, 8? Yes. How long did you perform? I didn't perform long because the show had actually ended early. Were you still performing at 9 o'clock? I don't remember. But you know you got on at 8:30. Yes, around 8 p.m. Do you remember? Well, was it 8 or 8:30? I said 8 or 8:30, yes. 8 or 8:30. Which one was it? Objection. Donnelly, do you remember what time? Ariel, I don't remember. Okay, and then Cannick. And do you remember how many songs you did? I believe I did about 2 to 3 songs. Okay. And then, did you stay around after that? No, it ended early. Are you aware that the trip by car from Jacksonville to Key West is about 8 hours? Okay. Anyway, no, I'm not aware of that. You said it took you guys a couple of hours to get there. Yes, I could have the location wrong. I apologize. Now, during your time from July to the end of August, how many times did your parents visit you at Mr. Kelly's court? What year? Cannick. Okay, Donnelly asks what year, and then Cannick replies 2015. Ariel, between July and August? July and the end of August, how many times did your parents visit you at Mr. Kelly's? I believe once. And from the end of August until the end of 2015, how many times? I don't know. Now, would it be fair to say that you were in constant communications with your family from the time that you moved to Mr. Kelly's until the end of 2015? Yes. And you had video contacts with them. Facebook contacts? I'm sorry. Facebook? Yes. No. Text? Text, yes. Phone calls? Yes. And then you'd have visits by your sister from time to time. My sister visited once. Once? Okay. And there came a point in time that the contact was not as regular. Am I correct? Correct. And you made that decision to cut back the contact. Am I correct? No, I did not make that decision. Do you recall speaking on a YouTube chat where you and your father spoke about it and you said it was your decision not to make contact as frequently? I do not recall that. Do you recall making a YouTube video with your father about communicating during the time you were with Mr. Kelly? Oh, child, I think he's talking about the Precedence video. Somebody done put Precedence on YouTube and got Cannick all messed up. So Ariel replies, a YouTube video? No, I do not. Or any type of social media forum where you and your father spoke about the contacts between you and the family when you were with Mr. Kelly? I do not recall that. Your Honor, may we approach? Donnelly, sure. Sidebar held outside the hearing of the jury. The following sidebar took place outside the hearing of the jury. Mr. Cannick, I just want to give the government an opportunity to see the video that we are about to show. I'm sure they've seen it. Geddes, it's a documentary, correct? I think that's a part of the confusion. For what it's worth. Cannick, yes, well, I don't know. I just saw it and we just took it. But it's one with her and her dad talking. Geddes, yes. Cannick, they're familiar with it. Do you need a copy of it? Geddes, no. I know what it is, but my only issue is I would like the witness to hear it herself and not play it for the entire jury because it may refresh her recollection, which I suspect it will. Donnelly, that is probably the way to do it. May I make a suggestion about this? Cannick, sure. Donnelly, maybe we want to come back to it and then at the break you can play it for her. Cannick, okay. Donnelly, and then I don't want to break. I mean, we can take the break now if you want, but then Cannick, yeah, maybe we took it now. Donnelly, well, the only thing is that I worry about then is jurors. Then they have 2 whole hours. Cannick, what time is it now? Donnelly, it's 3:15. Cannick, okay. Well, then I am going to go over some letters with her now. Geddes, okay. Donnelly, I don't want to knock you off your Cannick. I want it to end a certain way, but you know, I'm always different. I always defer to the court. Donnelly, well, I think really it's in everybody's interest not to have jurors sitting for 2 straight hours. That's the only reason. Cannick, okay. Donnelly, as riveting. Cannick, don't poke fun, Judge. Donnelly, I'm not poking fun. Sidebar concluded. Child. So they're back in open court, jury present. Cannick, Your Honor, based on our sidebar, I will come back to that. Donnelly, okay. And so the cross-examination continues with Mr. Cannick. There was a time going back to the trip to Jacksonville. When you got to Jacksonville, you and your mother withdrawn. You and your mother traveled to Jacksonville together by car. Am I correct? Correct. And you got there early morning hours. It was after his show had ended, yes. And you wanted a bed. You needed a place to stay. Am I correct? Yes. And you were offered 2 bedrooms by Mr. Kelly's assistant. Am I correct? Correct, yes. And your mother said that she would go and stay elsewhere. Am I correct? That's not correct. It's not correct? Okay, where did your mother stay that night? I believe she had taken his assistant's room and his assistant went to a different hotel. Isn't it a fact that she refused the room? No, she did not. She had been driving and did, in fact, want a room. Isn't it a fact that you told the government during your interview with them that your mother refused the room and wanted her own room? That is not accurate. So again, the government made another mistake. Objection sustained. Okay, showing you this document, and I direct your attention to the second paragraph. Sir, yes, just a second. Isn't it a fact that your mother was offered a room but refused it? That's not accurate. It's in the document, right? Yes, sir. And according to you, the document is wrong. Yes, sir. You wrote about that incident, am I correct? What are you referring to? You made some notes about that incident, the trip up to Jacksonville, am I correct, with your mother? What type of notes are you referring to? Geddes, what are you showing? What is this? Cannick, Your Honor, I am going to ask that this be marked Defense O. Donnelly, okay. Cannick, I show you what's been marked Defense O for identification. Do you recognize it? I do. Your handwriting? This is, you wrote it. Yes, I did. Your Honor, I am going to offer it into evidence as Defense Exhibit O. Donnelly, any objection? Geddes, as long as you give the witness an opportunity to explain it, no objection. Donnelly, all right, well, she will explain it. If Mr. Cannick doesn't give her the opportunity, I'm sure you will. All right, that's in as Defense O. So Defense Exhibit O was received in evidence. Then Mr. Cannick continues, I'm going to show you another P. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defense P for identification. Let me know if you recognize it. Pause. Is this your handwriting? Yes, sir. You wrote it. Yes, sir, I did. I'm offering it into evidence as Defense Exhibit P. Geddes, I've never seen it. One moment, Judge. Cannick, got it for you. Got it from you. Geddes, well, I have no idea what Defense P is. Geddes, do you have the whole document? Cannick, no. Geddes, I object on the ground then. Cannick, then we'll put the whole document in. We do have the whole document. Geddes, I don't think this is the whole document. Cannick, that's how we got it. Geddes, you may have gotten it that way. Your Honor, may we have a brief sidebar on this, or I could do it orally. Donnelly, let's do it at the sidebar. Sidebar held outside the hearing of the jury. The following sidebar took place outside the hearing of the jury. Ms. Geddes, so defense counsel has provided me pages of certain letters. I don't care if they go into evidence, but I want the entirety of the letter in evidence so there's context to what this is. And this is not the entirety of, and then Cannick jumps in and says, we can do that. And then Donnelly said, okay. Cannick, we can do that. Geddes, okay. Cannick, I won't put it in now. Geddes, okay. Cannick, I'll get the entire document and come back to it. I'll move on to another document. Donnelly, you can take yes for an answer. Do you have like a little teeny thing you can do until 3:30, or do you want to break now? Cannick, we can do this teeny thing until 3:30. Donnelly, okay. Sidebar concluded. So back in open court with the jury present. Cannick, Your Honor, I am going to show the witness a 2-page document as defense for identification Q. Donnelly, Q. Cannick, yes. Donnelly, okay. So examination continues with Cannick. Do you recognize the document? I do, yes. It's a document you prepared. This is, yes. Your Honor, I am offering it as Defense Exhibit Q. Any objection? Yes, Your Honor. You object? Yes. Can I see it? This is what we are going to do now, I think. Let's take a break. It is time for your afternoon break anyway. I have to discuss a few matters with the lawyers, so this one might be 20 minutes. But please don't talk about the case, and I will see you after the break. And then the courtroom deputy, all rise, the jury exits, and Donnelly, everybody can have a seat, and the witness can step down. Witness steps down and exits the courtroom. Donnelly, can I see that document that you were objecting to? Oh, I forgot I sent the witness out, didn't I? Well, let's first talk about this defendant's Q. This is a letter that was written when? Geddes, while the defendant was incarcerated. Donnelly, and it's a letter that the witness wrote? Geddes, yes. Donnelly, and what's the basis of your objection? Geddes, the basis is that, number one, I'm not sure why it's relevant, but if it does get admitted, the government wants to inquire the circumstances under which she wrote this letter, and the circumstances are that the defendant had been incarcerated for a period of time, and the defendant had instructed the witness that she was only to provide, talk about happy things and just stay positive, And it's not... She's not going to be able to explain that without also explaining the fact that he had been incarcerated for a period of time. Donnelly, well, I think that's all right with you, isn't it, Mr. Cannick? No, it's not a problem. Just turn on your microphone. So with that proviso, it's admissible. I mean, it is admissible evidence. Geddes, I'm also not sure how it's relevant regardless. Donnelly, well, it's relevant to the witness description of their relationship, and you can redirect on it, but it does open the door that he is incarcerated. Cannick, I think the world knows that, Your Honor. Donnelly, well, I don't know what the world knows, but I had taken steps to make sure that the jury didn't find out about it, particularly during the course of jury selection, where we were very careful to make sure that that wasn't apparent. So I am just saying it is not something that I take lightly, but if it is something, and I am not saying that you do either, but if it is, I don't even know why we're having this conversation. Obviously, you know that it opens the door and you're fine with it. Cannick, Your Honor, the only thing I would like to say, yes, is that the government could ask the question of the witness the very same way they asked the earlier questions. There came a point, the time you and the defendant, they're going to call him the defendant, you and the defendant were separated. During this time, you and the defendant were separated, right? And at some point, you guys spoke, and he asked you to only write letters that are complimentary, flowering, and glory. You don't have to go there unless you want to go there. Donnelly, well, I assume that goes for almost any question that anybody asks, but there is certainly a significant difference between someone who is just like in another town and someone who is incarcerated. But I don't really understand you to be making that objection. So I think the circumstances on which these letters are written, if you are introducing them, the circumstances of them are relevant. And one of the circumstances, and I take it this is at a point where she is still connected to him, and so she still cares about him. I think that is relevant. So I will permit you to introduce it, and I will permit the government to ask the witness questions about it on redirect examination. Geddes, Your Honor, could you instruct, or could I, but fine, if Your Honor does it, but instruct the witness on redirect, she is permitted to reference the fact that the defendant is in jail, because I had instructed her previously not to mention that. Donnelly, well, I don't think Mr. Cannick will object if I have you tell her that. I prefer to have the parties, Geddes, okay. Donnelly, talk to their own witnesses. You don't have a problem with that, do you? Cannick, well, I think there's a way to get around this without mentioning the jail factor. Donnelly, oh, we're back to that now? Okay. Cannick, yes, because I mean the government did it before without mentioning the fact that he's in jail. I think that the very same approach works here as well. Donnelly, I don't understand. So, the relevance of this, as I understand it, you are putting it in to show that she is expressing affection for him and concern, correct? So far? Cannick, right. Donnelly, the government responds that he instructed her to write letters this way. Then Geddes, and then Cannick cuts her off, but why? And then Donnelly cuts him off and says, so again, just let me finish. I mean, if he's incarcerated. I guess it goes to her motive to be sending him cheerful letters. Geddes. In addition, though, the defendant was well aware that all of his mail was being monitored by prison officials, and he instructed this witness and other people communicating with him that under no circumstances were they to write anything negative in a letter because it would be caught. And so the fact that he was in jail and was very cognizant of prison officials, reviewing this is absolutely relevant and goes to why it would be this letter versus a very different letter. Donnelly: are there other letters that are written before he was incarcerated that contain similar expressions of affection? Cannick: I'd have to check, Your Honor. Donnelly: and maybe you just want to go with one of those instead. Otherwise, I do think if she was given certain instructions, given the fact that prison officials are going to be looking at the letters, that is another factor to consider. I am going to suggest that you take a look. I am not as familiar by any stretch of the imagination as you all are by what the evidence is, so there may be something else that is written when he's not incarcerated. The other question that I have, though, how do you want to do this thing with showing the witness the clip that you want to show her? Cannick: Mr. Scholar will show her. Donnelly: but does it have to be on the record? Cannick: I think the government they have no objection, but it's just a situation, and I don't want to speak for the government, but they would like her to review it before we offer it. Donnelly: right, because they don't want the jury to see it if it doesn't come in. Cannick: right. Donnelly: so I don't need to be here, do I? Cannick: I don't think so. Geddes: no. Donnelly: all right, so make whatever arrangements you want to make. Well, I guess we have to make a finding, though, that she either recognizes it or she doesn't. Let's bring her in and you can ask her those questions. There's a pause. Witness enters and resumes the stand. Donnelly: all right, Mr. Scholar, can you just let us know what piece of evidence you are showing the witness? Mr. Scholar: yes, Judge. We have marked these as Defendant's Exhibit H and I. Donnelly: H and I. Scholar: yes, Judge. I'm sorry. Donnelly: that's all right, Mr. Scholar. H and I. Donnelly: and I think Mr. Scholar is going to show you just on your, does the witness have a monitor? Yes. Mr. Scholar: if it's okay, I can just bring the laptop over. Donnelly: okay, that's fine too. Geddes: I just want to make clear that there are no names mentioned in the clip that you are going to play. Donnelly: she is just going to watch it. Geddes: but if it's going to be broadcast. Donnelly: I don't think it is going to be broadcast. Scholar: I have headphones as well. Donnelly: maybe we would turn the microphone off. Ariel: okay. Donnelly: this is simply to have the witness, as I understand it, look at it and see. Well, I don't remember what the question was, but so if you want to show it to her, that's fine. Geddes: okay, just to be clear, so the witness understands too that this is not being broadcast outside of this room right here. Donnelly: no. Did you turn off the microphone? Ariel: yes, ma'am, I did. Donnelly: okay. Scholar: I can go ahead, Judge? Donnelly: yes, go right ahead. Video played with witness only. Cannick: may I, Your Honor? Donnelly: oh yes, turn on your microphone if you don't mind. So Cannick: you recognize your voice in that audio? Yes, sir, I do. Do you recognize the conversation? I do. Donnelly: all right, so now can we take our break? Am I needing to rule on something? Geddes: I honestly can't remember what the initial question was. Cannick: I think the government was fine with it. They just wanted to make sure that she would be able to recognize it. Donnelly: okay, all right, so is this something you are moving into evidence? Cannick: yes. Donnelly: all right. I couldn't hear it, but I am assuming you all know what it is, so. Geddes: Your Honor, I am just not sure why this is admissible into evidence. It may be if there's prior inconsistent statement, but I'm not sure that there is a prior inconsistent statement because I don't recall what the specific question is that led to Mr. Cannick asking about this recording. Donnelly: let me just go back. So there's a pause. And then Donnelly says, okay, sorry. What piece of evidence is this? P, Q? Then there's a pause. And then Cannick: Yes, but Your Honor, if you could excuse the witness, then maybe I could explain it. Donnelly, okay, let's take the witness out. Witness steps down and exits the courtroom. Okay, Cannick, Your Honor, before we got here and we skipped because, Donnelly, yes, Cannick. Before we got here, I'd asked the witness about the frequency in contacts with her parents and whether or not she, of her own volition, chose not to reach her parents during the particular segment. And throughout her direct testimony, she was saying that it was my client who prevented her. And in this tape, it is clearly showing the inconsistency because she's basically saying that no one stopped me. I did it myself. Donnelly, okay, well, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry, but you don't have any objection to that, do you? Geddes, I would just like him to ask the direct question, and then if she says something inconsistent, then you can introduce it. Cannick, I think she's been saying it all the while. Donnelly, well, I think the grave man of her testimony, I don't know what Donnelly was trying to say there, but I think she may have meant gravity, and they're saying gravamen. So I'm going to go with gravity of her testimony on direct was, I think even on cross, was that she was kept from seeing her family. This is the opposite, it sounds like to me. Cannick, it is. Donnelly, and so I just think that the question then is, well, I think it is certainly an inconsistent statement. I think you still have to do did you have an opportunity to hear that and ask her, you know how to do this part. Cannick, foundational questions, yes. Donnelly, this is intro cross. Geddes, right, but can we have her and give her an opportunity to explain this statement? We don't have copies of any of the defendant's exhibits. Donnelly, why not? Geddes, and it's going to be difficult for me to even redirect on it because I don't have copies of it. Donnelly, all right. Cannick, Your Honor. Donnelly, hold on a second. Well, if you are introducing it into evidence, I mean, I don't think he has to show you his entire cross beforehand, but it probably would be. And then Cannick cut her off and said, Your Honor, this is on all over YouTube, and I am confident, I am absolutely confident the government is keenly familiar with this because it's just there, and I'm sure they have seen everything that she's put out. Donnelly, I do think you said that you had seen and then seen it. Cannick, yes. Geddes, I actually am not sure I have heard that particular clip, but what I would like are copies of that so that I have the actual recordings that are introduced into evidence and copies of any other documents that are going to be introduced into evidence. I am not asking for their entire cross, just the exhibits that they're planning to admit, the same way that we obviously provided all of our exhibits. Donnelly, I think that is a reasonable request. Cannick, voila. Donnelly, let's take a break, okay? Cannick, I need one. Donnelly, okay, so just so we're clear and so we sew this one up, it's admissible as a prior inconsistent statement. I think everybody agrees about that. You want to be able to ask her about the context. You can do it on redirect, which doesn't seem like we are going to get to today. Is that right, Mr. Cannick? Cannick, I think that's about right, Your Honor. Donnelly, okay. Cannick, but there's a possibility. Defendant exits the courtroom. Donnelly exited the courtroom, recess taken. And then they're back in open court outside the presence of the jury. Donnelly, everybody can have a seat. All right, shall we get this witness? Geddes, may I ask one thing? Donnelly, oh my God, let's wait for the defendant. Defendant present. You wanted to raise something? Geddes, Under Rule 613B, before the defendant is permitted to offer evidence of a prior inconsistent statement, it states that the witness must be given an opportunity to explain or deny the statement, and the adverse party is given an opportunity to examine this witness. So the government asks that before the statement is admitted, that the witness be able to explain or deny the statement. Donnelly: well, I don't know that that has to happen on cross-examination. You mean before? Geddes: it says prior to its admission into evidence. It's Rule 613B. Donnelly: it's admissible only if the witness is given an opportunity to explain or deny the statement, and an adverse party is given an opportunity to examine the witness about it. I don't know that. I mean, maybe I'm revealing my ignorance, but I don't know that the defendant has to do that on cross. I just think she just has to be given an opportunity to explain it, which I'm going to give you. Am I wrong about that? I mean, I've been at this a little while, but maybe I just have forgotten. But I think if there's an inconsistency which counsel has identified, which to me sounds like an inconsistency, he's shown out of the presence of the jury, has shown her or had her listen to whatever the statement is, and then it is in. She just needs to be given an opportunity to explain it. Geddes: right. Donnelly: I'm not sure that he has to give her that opportunity. Geddes: but he is going to he's admitting the evidence now. Donnelly: well, I'm not going to admit it until the end. Isn't that how it works? Geddes: I thought he was going to play it now. Cannick: yes. Donnelly: I'm having a senior moment. I don't think it's not in evidence. He's confronting her with it, which this one just happens to be unusual because it's a tape recorded statement that the jury will hear. But if he confronts her with another inconsistent statement, the statement comes in. I mean, it sort of doesn't matter because the jury is not going to hear it until you've had the opportunity to do all of those things. Geddes: if that's the case, then there's not a problem, but my understanding is that he was going to play it now if that's not the case. Cannick: that was my intention, Your Honor. Donnelly: but it's still not in evidence. I mean, it's just like anything else. It's like this has been happening basically with everything that counsel has shown her. He's shown her a statement. He said, isn't it true that you said X? Now, what you could do, I think maybe what you're asking me to do is say, isn't it true that you said X at a prior occasion without playing it? And maybe that's the way to do it. Geddes: but I really just want her to be given an opportunity before it's played for the jury. And Donnelly: I think this is a lot of Cannick. I'm trying to unplug. Donnelly: drama over nothing. Quite frankly, I think perhaps the way to do this is to ask her, at the break, you were played. Isn't it true that you said X without playing the thing? I mean, it is true when you're doing prior inconsistent statements, you don't read the whole thing into evidence. I think the difficulty that everybody is having is just the form that it's taking. Cannick: right, and because it's on audio, but everything that she said in this tape, she was confronted with through cross-examination. Donnelly: I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I'm not doing that to torture you. I really can't hear you. Cannick: no lunch? Everything that she said during the audio, she was confronted on cross-examination about that. She gave a prior inconsistent statement, and she even gave, it doesn't matter she gave prior, she gave inconsistent statement with that on her direct exam as well, but we confronted her about it on cross-examination, and now we want to show the jury a prior inconsistent statement. Donnelly: but I don't think she's been asked about the statement yet. You just played it for her now. Cannick: but she was asked about. Donnelly: okay, let's do this because I think we're taking up too much time with this. Let's start asking her, and I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage just because I didn't hear what it was. Ask her the classic. Did you have an opportunity to listen to whatever H and I? Cannick, okay. Donnelly, isn't it true that you said X? Cannick, I have to find my notes of it. I know what you want. Donnelly, yes, just do it the regular old way and then don't play it. If it's an inconsistency and she denies it, then it comes into evidence. I think once you've had a chance to explain it. Cannick, okay. Geddes, okay. Donnelly, I feel like I'm in evidence class again. Geddes, are we ready to bring... Then Donnelly cuts her off. Let's start getting the jury. Well, let's wait until she gets in. Witness resumes the stand. Donnelly, let's get the jury, please. So just to be clear, we're talking about extrinsic evidence. That's what the rule applies. So that's whether I actually admit it into evidence. He can still cross-examination her about it as impeachment. Cannick, right. Donnelly, I feel somewhat better. Jury enters. Donnelly, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. That one's on me. We were trying to resolve an issue here, but I think it moved things along a little bit. All right, Mr. Cannick, go ahead. Cannick, yes. So now he's back to Azriel. Now, you testified earlier on direct examination that you were on the Gayle King show. Pardon me? You testified earlier on direct examination that you were on the Gayle King show. The documentary, the court, Gayle King, he's saying, Azriel, yes. And on that show, you stated that your parents told you to lie. Am I correct? I did, yes. And at that time that you gave that interview, you said Robert was in the apartment. It was a hotel, yes. And his lawyer was there as well. Am I correct? I don't recall. You don't recall Mr. Greenberg being there? No. Do you recall his manager being there? No, I believe he had his spokesperson. Do you recall that person's name? No, but he did have dreads. Donnelly, I didn't hear you. Donnelly need to get her ears checked. Now this is getting ridiculous. So then Azriel replied, he had dreads like, and then indicating, you know, what she meant by dreads. Cannick, I want to go back to when you and Robert would go out and all of the girlfriends, he would open the door for you. Yes, he would. You and the others would not even move until he got around to the other side of the car to open the door for everyone. Am I correct? What do you mean? What vehicle are you referring to? Any vehicle. He would open the door if he was in the vehicle with you. Yes. Okay. When you came into the room, when women came into the room, he would stand. He was what? He would stand up when women came into the room. He would? He would stand up when women came into the room. Can you rephrase the question? I don't understand what you're asking. Okay, I'm going to show you what's in evidence as Exhibit O. You wrote that you told us earlier. Yes. Okay, could you read the highlighted portion, the portion highlighted in yellow? Both sections or just the first? The first section. Okay. Okay, my mother drove me to R. Kelly's show in Jacksonville at 10 or 11 p.m., 4 hours from our current location, knowing we wouldn't arrive until about 2 or 3 a.m. Well, after the show was over, at the age of 17, girl, was you going to age a year in a few hours? Why are you talking about at the age of 17? Oh, my God. Okay, Cannick, I'm going to ask you to look at what's been admitted, no evidence as Defense Exhibit P, okay, and ask you to read from the highlighted portion from the top all the way down. Geddes, I don't think P is in evidence yet. Okay, P is something you wrote. Cannick just ignoring Geddes as she objecting. So he said P is something you wrote. And then Azriel said, yes, sir, it is. Cannick, Your Honor, I'm offering Donnelly, any objection? Geddes, no, Your Honor. Donnelly, okay, that's in evidence. Defense Exhibit P, so marked. Cannick, can you read from where the yellow line highlight begins? She also be sending him pictures of me in crop tops and tight clothes pretending to be me. I had no idea she had already been texting him, acting like me, but once I found out, I continued to just go along so they wouldn't be upset with me. My parents told me to tell him I sing and dance, so I sent him a video of me doing both. They both me what to wear. They both told me what to wear, which ended up being a crop top and tights. They watched me as I made the video and said nothing about it. I first met R. Kelly. The first time I met R. Kelly, I told my parents where I was, the hotel I'd be in, and once I got there, after about 30 minutes, they planned to call the police. The police asked me my age. I told them I was 18. They checked my ID and saw nothing. Okay. Could you read the last paragraph a little slower, please? Yes. Okay. The first time I met R. Kelly, I told my parents where I was, the hotel I'd be in, and once I got there, after about 30 minutes, they planned to call the police. The police asked me my age. I told them I was 18. They checked my ID and saw nothing. Now, I'm going to show you what's been marked as defense Q for identification. Do you recognize it? 1 second. Yes, I do. That's something you prepared, am I correct? Correct. There's some handwritten notes on the side of it, am I correct? Yes. You wrote those, am I correct? 1 second. Yes, I did. I'm offering it, Your Honor. Defense Exhibit Donnelly. Any objection? Geddes. May I see? Cannick. I'm going to change the markings on this, Your Honor, to R. Donnelly. R? Okay. Geddes. So you are going to remark this as R? Cannick. Yes. Geddes. No objection. Donnelly. Okay. Defense Exhibit R, so marked. Cannick, I want you to slowly read. Well, I'll first ask a few questions. Okay, that's a letter you wrote to whom? I wrote this to the defendant. Could you speak a little bit louder, please? To the defendant. And you wrote this letter to him after you separated from him, as you explained this morning. Am I correct? Yes. And what is it that you called him at the beginning of the salutation at the beginning? Hey, Bear. And could you read it for us? The entire thing or what's just highlighted? Read the entire thing. Read it slowly. Okay. Hey, Bear. So because of the circumstances that we're under, it's hard for me to do anything without talking about you, yet still supporting you. I know you personally don't want to speak about our private life, and neither do I. So because of that, I will have to support you privately and not publicly. But right now, I am still attached to you. But in order for me to have my own name, image, brand, and businesses, I would just have to be just me, not Jane, the girlfriend. Luckily. Geddes. Judge. Donnelly. All right, go ahead. Cannick. And may I approach the witness? Donnelly. Yes. Cannick. She can continue, Your Honor. Donnelly. Yes. Luckily, we talked about this act the last visitation. Nothing changes. You have your reasoning and I have my reasonings. We left on a good note as friends who support one another and will always love. And I will always love and support you, Bear. And you know me, I'm going to still check people from time to time because I still love you. But for the most part, I just wanted to let you know because I know things don't always go the way we plan it. I love you and I wish I was in Chicago, but it's going to stay this way until you give everyone a clear understanding in our household or not. I would have thought after your first visitation, that would have been the first thing you fixed, but apparently not, which is also fine. But just know I am always here. I have no bad feelings, Bear. At the end of the day, you know my word, and more importantly, I know my word, and I just don't want to be in an environment where there is no clear understanding, something you have the power to fix. I can only tell you I can't force you to do anything and vice versa, but I will definitely continue to write you and send you pictures, Bear. I love you so much, and just know everything from this point out is still politics. It's all politics. No matter what, I will always be respectful of myself and you will never ever see me do anything to hurt you, Bear. I just want to make you proud, and I want to make you happy. For me, more than anything, me and Boogie miss you so much, and I wish I could see you at visitation. Now, this letter was written by you to Mr. Kelly months after you had separated from him. Am I correct? Not months after. No, that is not accurate. When was it written? It had to have been immediately after I left him. And you said you left in October of 2019? Yes. And when you said immediately, you're talking the next day? No, meaning it would have happened within those months, because by January I had no more communication with him. Now, before October of 19, there was a separation between the two of you. Am I correct? That is correct. Donnelly, I'm sorry. The jurors are indicating that they can't hear you. I'm sorry, Mr. Cannick. Cannick, I'll move it closer. Donnelly, I don't think it's on. Cannick, it's on. I think it's the battery. Donnelly, let's see if we can get it fixed. So there's a pause. Then they come back. You testified that you don't have a recollection as to the date that you sent the letter. Yeah, I don't. I'm going to show you something to see if it refreshes your recollection. Do you see the date on that document? I do. Does that refresh your recollection as to the date you sent this letter to Mr. Kelly? I don't recall sending that from that location. This is your handwriting. Yes, that is my handwriting, correct. And that handwriting is on the envelope, am I correct? Yes, sir. Now, that's an envelope addressed to Mr. Kelly. Yes, sir. And the date on that envelope is December 2nd, 2019. Yes, sir. Your Honor, may I approach and see if the witness has Q? Yes. Do you have any documents here? No. And that was Ariel saying no. Okay, Your Honor, I think this was previously marked, but if not, defense Q for identification. Donnelly, okay. Could you look at Q and see for identification and see if you recognize it? The front portion, please. Oh, sorry. Yes, I do. Is that something that you prepared? Yes, sir, it is. I offer this defense Q. Any objection? No, Your Honor. Okay, that's in evidence. Defense Exhibit Q was received into evidence. Cannick, could you read it to the jury slowly, please, and loud? Where would you like me to start? Stop at the end of the first. Where would you like me to stop? Stop at the end of the first page. Bear, you remember Bambi? You have to read it louder, please. Bear, you remember Bambi? Oh, Bambi, I won't lie. If I weren't in this spider web of mine, if grandfather never had 7 wives, then darling, you would be the love of my life. Oh, Bambi, it's my design. To run the jungle, I must be a lion or be a cheater, but neither is fine. Don't want to hurt my dear love of my life. Bambi, Bambi, my dear, my dear, my dear. Bambi, Bambi, my dear, my dear, my dear, I want you here. Bambi, don't get too near, for there's lions, beware. We used to love that song. I just kept thinking of it all of our memories when you first recorded me devouring McDonald's Laugh Out Loud. And when we first met and when we first went to the big house and I said I want to be where you want to be, and how I used to happily wait for you to come home from meetings when you used to buy like $500 worth of Red Lobster laid out all over the piano room. I remember you played the piano and it was just me and you when we carved our initials into that table, and when you used to stop for me and call. Read the other side. You called me on FaceTime. I wish things could have stayed exactly like that. But it's okay, Papa Bear. Everything happens for a reason. And I know we will get out of this. I know, leave you, Jameis. Can't wait for us to listen to Caribbean music again. And I'm going to learn that boxing dance you do. Stop there. When did you send this to Mr. Kelly? I don't recall when. This was after the separation between the two of you. Am I correct? I believe that was when I was with the defendant. Beg your pardon? I believe that was written when I was with the defendant. Okay, where were you at the time when you wrote that? I believe Trump Towers. And he was not there, am I correct? No, he was not. Okay. And this was, you were asked earlier this morning by the government about viewing the Lifetime documentary. Remember the government asking you that? Correct, yes. And this was written after the Lifetime documentary, am I correct? I don't believe that is accurate. Do you know what year the Lifetime documentary was written, was shown? No, I'm sorry, I don't keep up with it. Okay, but you can say categorically that that was written before the Lifetime documentary. Objection. Overruled. I think your jacket might be obscuring your microphone. All right, and it's just harder to hear you, that's all. Cannick, I'm sorry. Could I have that last question and answer? Whereupon the record was read. Documentary. Which one are you referring to? Because there was a few. You said which one? Donnelly, I wonder if it's better to just direct her to a date, Mr. Cannick. Azriel, yes, Cannick. You mentioned this morning on direct examination that you were asked specifically about a Lifetime documentary. Do you remember that? Yes, sir, I do. And I'm asking you, did you write that letter before or after the Lifetime documentary? I don't recall when the Lifetime documentary came out. There were multiple on Lifetime? Yes. Okay. Now but the letter that you read just a short while ago, that letter was written, you said, after October 2019. Am I correct? I said that? Geddes, are you referring to Cannick? Is it Q? Geddes, defense Q. Cannick, no, not Q, R. Cannick, I showed you an envelope, right? And this was a letter from the envelope, am I correct? Correct. And that envelope had December 2nd, 2019 on the back, am I correct? Yes. And it's your testimony to us that you don't recall when the documentary, what is it, Surviving R. Kelly? The defendant was still at Trump Towers when that was released. And my question now, those letters were written when he was no longer there. Okay, let me back up. And my question now, and then Azriel, those letters were written when he was no longer there. There's no question before you right now. Now going back to during the break, you listened to an audio recording. Remember that? Yes, sir. And in that audio recording, you spoke about communication with your family. Am I correct? Yes, I did. And in fact, you said that I understand and I respect that completely, but I feel like for me, where it was so hard for me, and why I continued to not have communication with my family is because this Lifetime documentary stuff just happened within the last 2 years. And then I knew where those last 2 years, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get within the last, I'm going to start again, Your Honor. I continue to not have communication with my family. Okay, so Cannick was reading, he lost his place. And I was reading it like that was what Azriel had said in the Precedence documentary. Because I'm sitting there like, I don't remember her saying that. So he lost his place and he's starting over. And if you haven't seen Precedence, Precedence was a documentary that a guy named Shabazz did, where it was like his version of Surviving R. Kelly, but it was supposed to be giving a different perspective. And if you Google Precedence, I'm sure it'll pop up. There'll be some clips because several people aired it on their channels or did snippets or you can contact Shabazz. His handle on IG is As Is Entertainment, and he will reply to you. He's good with getting back to people. Okay, so he starts over and he says, I continue to not have communication with my family is because this Lifetime documentary stuff just happened within the last 2 years. And then I've known these last 2 years you hear, oh my God, this is happening. Oh my God. I haven't closed out my thing. Hold on, y'all. I keep clicking the wrong thing. Okay, I continue to not have communication with my family is because this Lifetime documentary stuff just happened within the last 2 years. And then I've known these last 2 years, you hear, oh my God, this is happening. Oh my God, that is happening. I just feel like now, how can you be so oblivious to the years that I was okay and just now, oh my God, I need to know where my daughter is at. She's this, she's that. I need to make sure she's okay. I've been okay for 3 years prior. That's where I drew my line because at that time, at that point, I was an adult. At that point, I felt like I was okay. So believe I was okay. So to believe something like that, so extreme, so bizarre, so outrageous, I just couldn't even fathom my parents believing something as bizarre as that. I really couldn't. That's what was said by you in that audio. Yes, sir. And this audio was made when? I believe that audio, I actually don't recall when that audio was made. Sorry. Do you have an approximate as to when that audio was made? It could have been anywhere from October to January of what year? October of 2019 to January of 2020. And you were speaking with your father in that, correct? Yes. And then you go on to say, things didn't go right. My communication slowed down because at that point I was an adult. You said further, I would call you guys 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 months at a time. And when I would call you guys would be yelling. You guys would be cursing me out. Mommy would be yelling at the top of her lungs. And so what I would say, I'm going to give you about 4 to 5 months and hopefully you'll just miss me so much that you just want to talk to me and open your arms, and eventually it got there. Further said that you're not checking in every day. And then Ariel, what was that last thing? I'm sorry. Cannick, you said, so let me ask you this. Before graduation, I was not even checking in every day. Then you go on to say, now maybe like once a week, every 2 weeks or so, I would call y'all. You go on to say, Robert would ask me to call you guys, and no matter what city we were in, he would say, is this your father's number or is this your mother's number? And it was say, call me, and I would say that is my father's number. He was like, you need to call them. And I would say, I'm not going to call him because at this point, the only thing I get is bickering every time I pick up the phone. So if I can avoid it, if I can enjoy myself in this nice little penthouse while we're in New York for the weekend, I'm going to enjoy my weekend. It was very suffocating because I was an adult. And at the end of the day, period, I am not obligated to answer anyone going to know that you are my father. But I'm not obligated. Then you go on to say, anyone who thinks that I am brainwashed and not as smart, I'll try again. Anyone who thinks that I'm brainwashed and not smart enough to make my own decisions, I just feel like that determines how you know their mentality. Rob, our conversation that I had with him in Chicago, you know, he inspired me and told me, Bear, just do what you want. Do what makes you happy. He told me to continue to pursue my dreams, pursue whatever I wanted to pursue, and that's really all I want to do. When you were mentioning Bear, y'all, that's how she was talking on that video. Okay. So then Cannick says, when you were mentioning Bear there, you were mentioning Mr. Kelly. Am I correct? Yes. And that's what you said that he told you at the last conversation you had. Getty's objection. Donnelly, I didn't hear the last part. If Donnelly don't get her a damn hearing aid, Lord, we should all send Donnelly some hearing aids, because I think she is the problem at this point. So then Cannick, that's what you said, and he told you at the last conversation you had with him. Donnelly, is that true? The objection is overruled. Okay, what do you mean by that last question? You testified, you said here in your conversation to your dad that was the last thing that Robert said to you when you guys spoke in Chicago the last time. That was not true. So that was not true? You told a lie? Yes. Robert wasn't around then. Am I correct? He was not, no. And you posted this on social media. I did not, no. Do you know who posted on social media? It was a friend of the defendants. A friend of Robert? Yes. Okay, but the defendant, Robert, was with you and your dad when you made this tape? Yes. Wait a damn minute, Azrael. Jesus. Okay. This was a tape that you and your dad made. Am I correct? No, this is not. You and your dad participated in it. Yes. And you had a back and forth exchange. Am I correct? It was an interview. Yes. And you said, all women that have been associated with Robert, I feel like, this is me personally, once they saw him as a celebrity, not as a human being. They did not meet him at church. They were infatuated with him, with that celebrity. And because of that, I feel like a lot of them just baited him because of that. Because of who he was, because of the life that he had, because of the life that he could provide. And a lot of them talk about how badly they were treated, but they don't talk about the shopping sprees, the hair, the nail salon, and the great times that you had at dinner, and you were spending money and splurging. You were as happy, because one thing, Robert, he's very giving. He has a very giving heart, and there's no way whatsoever that he has a reason to keep you kidnapped or tie you up or hold you against your will. That's what you said in that interview, right? I did say that. Okay, now you also wrote a letter to your father. I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit S for identification. May I speak with the government? Donnelly, sure. Pause in proceedings. Cannick, Your Honor, for the record, Defense Exhibit, Defense S for identification. There are multiple letters in a pack. Donnelly, okay. Cannick, can you look through those, please? Azrael, excuse me, you said all of these were to my father? Just read through them and see if you recognize them. Okay. Geddes, Your Honor, can we have a moment at sidebar while the witness is reading? Donnelly, sure. Sidebar held outside the hearing of the jury. The following sidebar took place outside the hearing of the jury. Donnelly, first of all, we've got to help you out with your microphone. I am not trying to throw you off your game or anything, but the thing is the court reporter can't hear you when it goes off, and I can't always hear you. And so I'll talk to Donna to see if we can get something that works a little better. Cannick, okay. Donnelly, but I know it's annoying to constantly be told we can't hear you, and I am not trying to do that. I know, Judge. So this is a text message from the witness, and to whom is it written? I have to find out from her. We just found it. Geddes, I think that it is a post potentially written by her. It may well have been written by her. My only objection is I don't think she ever testified that she was held against her will. Wrong person. You need to stop. And by introducing it, it suggests that this is like some big gotcha moment. She never said she was held against her will. Donnelly, it is clearly relevant. The only thing I'm concerned about is really don't want her. Can it get her name out? Donnelly, take the name out. Yes. Cannick, right. Geddes, but if defense counsel said you weren't held against your will, She would say, no, I wasn't held against my will. Cannick, no, but I. Donnelly cuts him off. Okay, but the tenor of that. And then Cannick cuts her off. Yes. And then Donnelly, because you know she gonna get the last word regardless, continues her statement as she always does. The tenor of the case is that, I am assuming the theory of the government's case is that she did not feel free to leave, whether it's psychological control or, and I am assuming your expert is going to talk about the features of young people in these situations, and I am assuming your expert could explain that this is what this is, but he is entitled to put it in. But can we please, I really would like, can you cover that? Cannick, yes, I won't even introduce it today because I am about to ask you for a favor. I am worn out. Donnelly, I know, that's fine. Sidebar concluded. And then back in the presence of the jury, Donnelly, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have another little issue that we have to resolve. And I think given the time, it probably makes sense for us to break today. We are still on a good path. Don't be concerned. So we will stop for the day. Please don't talk about this case at all. Don't read anything that might be reported on it or watch anything or look on social media or look up the case at all. But do have a good and restful night, and I will see you tomorrow at the same time. All right, have a great night. And then the courtroom deputy, all rise. The jury exits. Cannick, may I get the document back? Court, sure. Cannick, thanks. Donnelly, and you can take the witness. We'll see you tomorrow. Witness steps down and exits the courtroom. Donnelly, all right. I think you are going to make those adjustments to that exhibit. Cannick, yes. Donnelly, and then as I ask everyone every night, do you have a feeling of how much longer you might be? Cannick, I am hopeful that we'll finish with the witness right near the break point. Donnelly, okay. And then I know, will you have some redirect? Just a general reminder. Judge Donnelly's trial advocacy class. We don't have to go over all the points that were made on direct examination, but I am just throwing that out there as a general tip. Cannick, okay. Donnelly, but I assume you will have some certainty. Some certainly. Geddes, yes. Donnelly, which is fine. And then, do you have a sense of whether you have longer witnesses tomorrow or shorter witnesses? Geddes, we definitely have shorter witnesses than the one that's currently on the stand. Donnelly, okay. Geddes, we will take a look at our schedule and determine who it makes sense to call tomorrow. Donnelly, okay. Also, and I think I said this before, just to the extent, and I really don't like to put people on the spot about this, but just to the extent that there's no dispute about certain pieces of physical evidence, if there are things that you can agree on before so we can move forward, move things along a little more quickly, I think that's to everyone's benefit. I understand that you may have other things on your mind than sitting down and figuring out what evidence you agree on. But if you can do that, that would probably speed things up a little bit. Anything else that we have to talk about today? Geddes, Your Honor, if we might, could we just have a brief sidebar to address an unrelated issue to today's witness? Donnelly, yes. Outside of the hearing of the jury, the following sidebar took place outside the hearing of the jury. Geddes, the government, as I've indicated to counsel and to the court, intends to call a witness from the Loggins law firm where, right, Ms. Pace initially provided that cell phone and the t-shirt to further establish the chain of custody. The two witnesses who are available to do that are insisting that they cannot travel to New York because of the pandemic. I am prepared. Donnelly, doesn't one of them have like a 100-year-old mother? I don't know where I read that. Geddes, oh yes, you saw that email. That was sent to me. Donnelly, yes. Geddes, yes. So, to the extent that counsel, my understanding from, at least initially, from defense counsel is that they were not going to agree to allow this particular witness to testify by video, and we are prepared to seek other avenues. However, I do think that it would probably be easier to simply have her testify by video. The reason why we need to address it now is that it's my understanding that she is traveling internationally on the 28th, and I don't want to lose her before she leaves. Cannick, Your Honor, could you give us another? I can't make a decision. If you give me an opportunity, maybe we can. If the marshals hold him for about 5 or 10 minutes, we can have some discussions to see whether or not we can then get us, because if not, I have prepared a material witness warrant, which I am going to ask Your Honor to sign because I have to do it before the 28th. Donnelly, I guess it's too late to do a Rule 15. Geddes, I think realistically, I think honestly, it would be better just to have her testify by video. Donnelly, video, Cannick, of course, Geddes, and it's effectively the same thing. Donnelly, I mean, just in terms of you'll have your conversation. Do you want me to ask them to hold him? Excuse me, guys. Cannick, yes, please. Discussion off the record, sidebar concluded in open court. Jury not present. Donnelly, all right, we have just been having really scheduling questions. You know, I know that there are some witnesses who may be traveling here from other places. Since we have the Delta variant and the situation in New York has become more difficult, I know there is some concern about witnesses that might have to travel. Having done this a few times by video, it is actually somewhat more efficient. And if the parties can agree on witnesses who might not be the key to the case, let's say that having them testify by video, I think that's really to everybody's benefit. I know there is one witness who is reluctant to fly in from Florida, which I think we all agree is quite a hot spot, and that person has obligations to an elderly person that make the person unwilling to travel. I am going to encourage the parties to try to agree upon that. I don't think there is any benefit to forcing the person to come up here. I don't know what the person's vaccination status is, and I really am reluctant to subject the people in the courtroom and the jurors to someone who is coming from a hot spot and we don't know what their vaccination status is. Now, Donnelly, don't be talking about my state like that. Like I said, I don't think this is the key to the case. I think this is a tangential witness. I need to look that word up. It's possibly a witness that you could stipulate to. And so I am going to just suggest that you do that. How many witnesses are we talking about that are in this position? Geddes, there are 2 witnesses who are in this position. There are a few additional witnesses whose testimony will be very, very short, and it would be great if we could either reach a stipulation or allow them to testify by video, just to save everybody the trouble of having to fly to New York for 7 minutes of testimony. Donnelly, well, and I don't know what the witnesses are testifying about. I think everybody should be mindful of the fact that we've got jurors here that are giving up, as jurors do in every case. But if there is a way to not, I mean, I don't know who the witness is, but if it's somebody who is going to testify about business records or something, that is a waste of time. That is something that you should really be able to stipulate. I can't force you to stipulate to it, but I don't think it's in anybody's interest to have a bunch of boring witnesses come on that you are really not disputing. So I am going to direct the parties to make their best efforts to come to some kind of an accommodation, either by stipulation or by video. And we are in a little bit of uncharted territory here in terms of what the court can order under these with the pandemic like this. But I really don't see why you wouldn't agree to that. I don't know why you would want to bring somebody in here from a hotspot who we don't know what their vaccination status is and all of that. So does anybody else need to be heard on this? Geddes, the government does not. Donnelly, okay, this happens in trials all the time, and you seem to have been getting along pretty well, and it just seems to be a reasonable accommodation. So I think that's all. Cannick, Your Honor, I would just ask if we be given an opportunity that the marshals accommodate us, that we be given 5 minutes that we can start discussions. Donnelly, yes, I think they've agreed graciously to do that. I do want to thank the marshals for their help and hard work during the course of this trial. All right, so yes, so thanks for doing that. And yes, you can certainly do that. Anything else, Cannick? No. Donnelly, okay, thank you so much. Judge Ann M. Donnelly exited the courtroom. Defendant exited the courtroom. Matter adjourned to August 25th, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. And I know I told you guys that we were going to finish this up in this video, but currently this video is at 1 hour and 59 minutes. So we're at the 2-hour mark. And so we are going to end the video here, and then the last video will be like the final of Azriel's testimony, and then her friend Malak, and I believe that the combined testimonies are like 95 pages, so that will come in our final video on Azriel Clary. So that's it for me. Go ahead, leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye bye.